This is, what is this today, Pat?
This is Monday, Jude.
This is Monday.
Yes.
I do
Yes.
like Mondays because I get to talk to Pat McGart instead of myself for a change. Or my
How are you, Jude?
I'm not too bad at all, Pat. Every so often, this bloody lockdown, you know, when you hear them talking about another month or 2 months, or then they're talking about next November for a
vaccine.
Vaccine. You know, you begin to wonder, like,
but Jude, the difference between this lockdown and the last one is quite significant. The last one occurred in around about, what was it, March, April. That the weather was fantastic. The evenings were long.
Yeah,
it's very different this time. There are long nights, and I think it's affecting people's mental health a lot more than it did the last time.
And it's not the excitement of the first time. You know,
no, exactly.
You know how exciting things are the first time, no matter what they are. Anyway, we will just have to trudge on, Pat.
Absolutely.
Events are calling for us to give some wisdom to them. So let's look at one. The one that's occupying the headlines yesterday and today is Leo Varadkar and this document. Now, this was a document that I think he was the Minister of Health at the time, and he had done this sort of provisional deal with the Irish Medical Organisation, the IMO.
No, Jude, I think Harris was the minister.
Oh, was he?
But Leo was Taoiseach.
He was Taoiseach, sorry,
Yeah.
my mistake. Okay, so as Taoiseach, he was supervising Harris and this deal that had been done, provisional deal with the IMO. And then Leo took it, a chum of his, a pal of his, who was a member of another organisation of medical people, the National Association of General Practitioners, who were a kind of, people all say it's a rival group of doctors.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a different group of doctors. He took this and sent it to a chum of his and said, have a look at this, you know. Now, people are getting very irate about this and are saying, you know, we're back now to the old PALS routine, and that this isn't at all professional. And people like your man that was kicked out, Phil Hogan, must be quietly pleased that Leo is feeling the heat, maybe. But Leo says he hasn't done anything. Well, he says he hasn't done anything illegal. Although if he had to do it again, as the Queen said, he would, he would do it differently, or maybe not at all. What do you think, Pat?
Jude, it's one of those things. I think Leo's admitted that he sort of used inappropriate. He shouldn't have done it, right? That he should have used a different method of getting him, right? That's the first thing. Now, I noticed in yesterday's Sunday Independent and on the Week in Politics, David Cullinan said, like, there's £220 million involved here, and giving sort of confidential information or passing it on to a friend who's in charge of another organisation. Now, Leo's trying to say that everything was signed, sealed and delivered, but there's a bit of a dispute about the timeline, so it's not quite as clear-cut as he's making out. Now, that is all going to be teased out. But if it turns out that the deal wasn't signed off and he jumped the gun to alert a friend what was going on, and there was 220 million of taxpayers' money riding on this, he could be in considerably more difficulty than. Now, if it turns out the deal was agreed, the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, you'll probably get away with it. But the bigger picture, I think, Jude, is the fact that here's a guy who is very quick to slam others and about probity and about other and so on. So he's got caught out badly this time, and it smacks. Jude, I read somewhere there quite recently, when he was Minister for Transport, there was all sorts of appointments to friends, to quangos and NGOs and all that sort of stuff. And he points a finger at Republicans and the Bobby story, and he points a finger at other opponents about doing things, about their sort of preaching to him. While if this is true, he was doing the same himself. He was looking after his friends.
Yeah, but I don't know if we should allow that to the fact that he would be jumping on other people, like Bobby Story funeral and so on, allow that to influence our judgment of what was right.
No. But the point I'm making is, when you take the moral high ground.
Now, you're setting yourself up all right. I have mixed feelings on it. On the one hand, it does seem like if he hadn't been a chum of Leo's, he wouldn't have got seen this document.
O'Toole, yeah.
I don't think it was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a signed deal. I gather that it was just they'd laid it out with these.
Yeah.
IMO was sort of considering it.
I think it was. I think there was a sort of a tentative agreement, but it wasn't signed.
Yeah. What was he trying to achieve then by going to this rival organisation? I wonder, or was he just simply saying, you know, you're a doctor, you're a chum of mine. Have a look at this. Isn't this interesting?
Yeah, well, I think that might be it, but there's also possibility as well
that
the spin's been put on it by Harris and others now that he wanted to get as many doctors as possible on board and so on. But the other side of the story, Jude, had O'Toole got one of this and said, went to his members and said, look, we're being sold out, and the whole thing blew up. It could have gone the other way. So Leo was not in the clear. Now, Jude, I think tomorrow, is it Tuesday or Wednesday? He's going to answer questions on the Dáil. So I think it might all, see when things like this are teased out, there's always going to be spin, Jude. He's got probably the biggest press gallery in Dáil history and the history of the Oireachtas. So there was a statement come out yesterday, a detailed statement, and I'd say at this stage, some angry Fianna Fáilers are probably in the back bench going through it. The Shinners will definitely go through it. The Labour Party, everybody will be going through it and say, wait a minute, is that factually correct? They'll be going through it line by line. So it'll be more interesting what comes out tomorrow. But the thing was put out on Sunday was, you know, an ass covering a press release.
I have mixed feelings on it because you say, for example, the Shinners will be after it and opposition will be after it. And of course they will. And they'll be making it look as bad as they possibly can, I suspect.
Yeah, that's politics.
So likewise, you know, we shouldn't allow that to influence us. I'm not sure in this world where there's a whole lot of very important and serious things happening, that whether or not he showed something to somebody several years ago, you know, and we don't even know if it made any difference. What difference did it make?
No, I don't think I don't think it's a hanging offence what he's done. It's back to the one I said earlier on, in my opinion. Leo is adopts a very holier than thou. It's an approach he has used so often while chiding others. You can imagine golf gets, I'd say, like Phil Hogan's sitting going, great, absolutely. Seamus Wolf was probably going, great, wonderful. And, you know, all these opponents down the years where he has taken the moral high ground and sort of told them off. And actually, some people have paid quite a high price for Leo's high moral attitude. And now he's been found leaking a document to a friend before the deal was signed. It's inappropriate, to put it mildly. And he said, to use his own term, you know, that sort of euphemism, not best practice. You know, okay.
Yeah. I think you put your finger on it all right. He has kind of made his reputation as being sort of a latter-day PD, you know, keeping the government
honest.
Exactly. Yeah. And here it does seem that he's admitted himself he hasn't done it right. He should have done it another way. It's just a question of how important it is that he should have done it another way. I'm not sure it's a terrible big crime, but I think it's going to damage his image.
I think that's the point. Yeah.
Because most of us thought of him as being clean cut and you know, whatever else you'd say about him, that he didn't mess with old style politics.
Right, yeah. But I think that is the point, Jude.
Yeah. Well, I'll rub it up in my say. I don't mean that. It'll be interesting to see how he conducts himself tomorrow. Right. Who was it that said football isn't a matter of life and death? Far more.
It was Bill Shankly.
Bill Shankly. So that's what we're talking about next. This fact that in the last 2 days or 3 days, two big footballers news about them. One has died, Nobby Stiles, and I'm distressed to see he's quite a young man in his 70s. And the other one is news of dementia for Bobby Charlton.
Yeah.
Do you feel a deep sadness when you read these things, Pat?
Absolutely, Jude. You know, David Beckham and all these people, and Ronaldo and Messi, like they're my kids' heroes, or even my grandkids' heroes. For me, Bobby Charlton, Nobby Stiles, and Bobby Moore, and all, they were the pinnacle epitome of the superstar when I was growing up, and you sort of followed their careers and whatever. English football was probably very glamorous. Like by 1966, I was 13, and England won the World Cup. Much as I had my own views and things like that, but it was massive news.
Pat, did you watch the game?
Oh yeah, I did actually. News, Jude.
You
you ever see those Hovis bikes? I was a messenger boy for an old style shop, retail shop, where people paid each week on a Friday or a Saturday on a book. I used to deliver messages around Letterkenny on a Hovis bike with a big basket. And every house I went into, they were all sitting watching the matches. And I think it was the slowest delivery route in history that day that I watched that match, because I sat and watched it in various houses. I remember it was a Saturday afternoon, and I was on black and white TV.
Yeah.
But anyway, you have memories.
Come on now, don't be judging.
Of course you did. Jesus, it was all seen. Of course you did.
The funny thing, I was in England at that time. I was working in a factory, and we had taken the afternoon off or something. But I was with several dairy guys. In fact, an uncle of Garvin Downey's, I remember, among others. And I remember him cheering for England. And I remember, I just had mixed feelings. I wasn't sure, should I cheer for them or did I want to see them beaten?
Yeah.
Maybe I was looking ahead and realizing that for the next bloody 50 years, we'd never end of it.
Well, no, that didn't. Jude, come on. Like, it was only 20 years after the Second World War, and when you can see, and put it in context, the concentration camps, the deaths, the death and destruction, and in fairness, England didn't start that particular war, so you can all the rest. But the thing, Jude, right, the last day, Pelé turned 80. Diego Maradona, God, the fact that he made 60 is unbelievable, considering his lifestyle. But they were all sort of our era, and now they're dying off. I know sport is much more than just sport. There's sort of, what would you say? There's all things involved, like hero worship, and there's, the role models, and, they give us something more than our own lives. Like I could never have been a footballer. I could never have been a great musician. I could never have been any of those things. Yet these are the people that are sort of, pantheon of the greats, and they're falling off one by one. That affects people. There's no doubt about that. I've zero doubt about that.
Yeah. I think it's, for me anyway. I think there's another point I want to make about this, but I'd say first of all the fact that they are footballers. You remember them as young men, extremely fit, and that's how you. In fact, that's how they often are, because the last image I had of Nobby Styles was not a 70-whatever-year-old man. It was a young guy with gapped teeth and dancing
doing a jig after England won the World Cup. Yeah,
it's as if his whole life had sped by. Suddenly you realise, Jesus, that's my life's gone by as well.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of a shadow of your own mortality, because you're looking, and then as I said earlier, Bobby Charlton. Having dementia, a guy who used to score goals that were just things.
Maybe it's down a bit of a rabbit hole, but isn't it amazing? A lot of footballers from that era all got dementia. Do you remember Jeff Astle? His family, he had dementia in, I think, his early 50s. Nobby Styles had dementia. Bobby Charlton's dementia. Jack had dementia. We're heading an old, heavy, wet ball.
It's amazing there aren't more. It's amazing there aren't more.
Yeah. Remember the old one about all the boxers years ago that they called it punch drunk? It was actually brain damage.
It was taken as part of the thing. But here's the thing, Pat, in connection with that. I mean, I know it's a broader point, but it's one that interests me. You're not English, and I'm not English.
Nope.
And there are footballers, well, suppose your thing is soccer rather than Gaelic. Well, there's soccer played here. What are we doing following the lives and worshipping in the shrine of English players or Americans, just as we used to do cowboys and Indians? Isn't there something kind of diminishing of ourselves about that? We sort of are like Indians playing cricket. I know that's not quite the same analogy.
But someone right here. But there's an easy enough explanation for that. Jude, you go to a soccer match in Ireland, Fun Harps playing whatever, or Derry City, and you'll be lucky to get 1,000, a couple of thousand at it.
You go there. That's not the point.
But hold on. You go over to Scotland and you get 80,000 watching Celtic and Rangers. You'll get Manchester United versus Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's there's a whole how would you say theatre about it. There's a massive crowd. There's big money. All our best players go over there. So we are invested in that. If anybody's any good in Ireland, they automatically go. But hold on, that's all part of it. You know, it's not as if we should. Hey, come on. There was more Manchester United fans in Ireland when Roy Keane was there than you'll ever.
I'm aware of that.
And Arsenal when Liam Brady was there.
Yeah.
We invested in that because there was a big Irish contingent in them, and we Liverpool for years had so many Irish. Sure, what do you call it? The Arsenal at one stage in the 70s had about 6 Irish players that were known as Arsenal Shamrocks.
I know, I know, and I'd be the same way, but I'm not sure that it isn't a bit like saying I'm really proud of the government cabinet in Westminster because there's a Scot in it. I'm Scottish, you know.
Not the same thing, Jude. Apples and oranges, Dr. Collins.
You're buying into the big, important, real country next door rather than your own.
No. Come on, you're going to wade down a rabbit hole with that one.
Yes, the second time you used that word rabbit hole.
That's a sport.
Where's a rabbit?
Somebody goes down a rabbit hole, and then there's about 10 different roads that can go. You know, right. This is about sport. You watch Arsenal. There could be a guy from Libya. There could be a guy from. Sure, look at what Arsenal was. Arsenal a couple of years back, first team in the history of the Premier Division, not a single Englishman. And
yeah, but it's a bit like people. Come on, it's a bit like regiments, British regiments, employing Gurkhas or guys from India or guys from Ireland or guys from Australia. You know, we're supposed to feel honoured that we're a part of that. I'll tell you what, a wee little story, Pat. When I was a young fella in Christian Brothers in Oman, in 5th class, I think it was, there was a habit, you may be after your time, or before your time rather, but we used to collect these little sweetie cigarette cards. You buy these little sweetie cigarettes and they'd have a little card in it. And it'd be a footballer. And it'd be, you know, Len Shackleton or something. It turned the was he a footballer or was he an explorer?
He was a bomber.
Turn the other side and you get the details. Well, I never bought the bloody sweetie cigarettes, but somewhere or another I amassed a bunch of these. And the Christian brother one day in class caught me looking at them. And he took them from me and he put them in 2 piles and then he ripped them apart and threw them in the waste basket. And I was really pissed off. And for a long, long time I was pissed off with him. And now when I look back, I can see what he was doing. He was essentially saying, what are you doing worshipping at the shrine of English footballers in English clubs that have nothing to do with your life or your background? I mean, you should be thinking at least of, if you're going to be playing soccer or looking at soccer players, there should be people here. You're somehow glancing over your own country to real stuff and diminishing your own country by doing so.
What your man was showing was total intolerance.
I thought so at the time, but I've thought longer about it since then. You know,
I don't agree with your analysis either. Jude, this is sport. This is not war. It's not an army. It's not an admiration of a political system. Sport is basically theatre. And like 2 men on a dog on a Saturday afternoon, Glentoran versus Crusaders, nobody cares. But you get 80,000 in Liverpool versus Everton, or Arsenal versus Manchester United. There's a whole gladiatorial thing. It's just pure sport. It's the theatre of the thing. It's got nothing to do. Like when you watch now, you're not supporting England. You're not supporting a political system. You're not supporting Westminster or the House of Lords or anything like that. What you're doing is it's like a big show, and this is the best one in town.
Well, you could say the same thing about the House of Commons.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's the biggest parliament in.
But I'm not invested in that. I have no interest in that whatsoever.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
This is sport. This is sport.
Send a few. I mean, you could say, "Oh, look, we've got a few really good SDLP people in the House of Parliament. Isn't that fantastic?"
Hold on. Even back in the 60s, it was not English. The best teams had players that were from Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and England. The big leagues in England were not exclusive. Johnny Giles, Noel Cantwell, Shea Brennan, Tony Dunn, Well, they were made up, and there was the best players from all the countries and this geographic region, and the best of them happened to be playing in England, and we got on that. You know that had nothing to do with. In fact, a lot of people I know who are absolute rabid Republicans are absolute rabid Manchester United fans and Celtic fans and Everton fans and whatever.
Maybe there's an inconsistency there.
Because no, it's totally consistent. It's football. It's pleasure. It's entertainment.
Take Arsenal or take any team you want. If they're playing way back even then, if they'd played in the European Cup or something, and somebody say, "Well, where's that team from?" That's an English team. That's an English team. And of course, you had a few Irish guys, and maybe even had a few Argentinians or something. But that was an English team, and they still are English teams, even though they're full of foreigners. So it's like the Commonwealth enlisting in the army, the British Army, because it's the place to go. You know, it's the most powerful one. No, I'm overstating the case a bit.
Yeah, I worry about you, Dr. Collins. I'm sure look at Martin McGuinness loved cricket. Good God. What a more British game than that.
I always thought Martin McGuinness was a fairly sane man. I'm beginning to have serious doubts. You know what George Bernard Shaw said, that the English are not a religious people, and so they invented cricket. So
yes,
the idea
exactly.
of what eternity is. That's what I feel. I've tried. So how God how I tried when I was young. We had a TV, and I used to be bored in my mind. I'd go and I'd try to watch the cricket. Oh, the only good thing was when the West Indies came and they bowled the ball and tried to knock the guy in the soft parts. Anyway, it is sad though. We'll leave all that aside. It is sad to see people like Nobby Stiles and Bobby Charlton. It's I suppose the saddest thing of all is it's your own mortality you're sort of lamenting.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. These were young men when we were young men.
So it happens to everybody, you know. Well, it'll happen to everybody, but you'll find I'm an exception. Not really.
You said it earlier on. When you think about these people, how fit and how they were athletes, they were top of the pile, and it's hard to imagine old men like Nobby Stiles had dementia and he had, I think, prostate cancer. So mortality.
Well, in a way, you know, if you think about it, if you go back to the 60s, the rock groups that have continued, I often think they're sad. I mean, I know that the Rolling Stones play still good music, you know, good rock band. But God, when you see them, you know, you haven't seen them for 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Oh, jeez.
Mick Jagger looks like a
you know, you think Mick Jagger and the guys shall soon be coming on stage in summer frames?
Well, it's not fair because, if you take jazz, for example, the guys played until they couldn't hold,
but the whole concept of pop music was this young, vibrant, and all the rest of it. Jazz music was for guys sitting around smoking and drinking brandy.
It's a bit unfair, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's come to something far, far more important than anything like this. This is more important than life and death. There's an election in America tomorrow.
Yes.
Does that strike fear into your heart, Pat?
Jude, there's my daughter-in-law said something the last day, which is true. She says she'll be watching the TV for a while on Tuesday night through sort of her fingers. I think a lot of people, I have a couple of American friends who say the same. Apparently, Jude, this is the most divisive election almost in American history. There are people in America who are scared to say even to friends what way they're voting because it's apparently, you know, if you're a Trump supporter, there are people who are saying, hey, if you're vote for Trump, don't come near our house again, and vice versa, and so on. Trump has taken America right to the edge. He has sort of basically radicalized the right to an extent that it's almost become fascism, and some people love it. Jude, years ago, I'll not even name, I was in the company of 3 Americans. I'll just say he was a journalist. And I couldn't believe, his vitriol towards Obama was unbelievable. And it only occurred to me afterwards, it was downright racism. Absolutely nothing to do with the man, nothing to do with his policies. He was a racist. This guy, who on the surface was very smooth, quite high up on a certain newspaper, and all that. And I realized that's just what, and I came to the conclusion after that Trump was actually the backlash from white America against Obama. That the whites were saying that apparently Bill Clinton was overheard to say it now whether he meant it one way or the other, and it opened the debate, but he was heard to say when Obama was in the White House, 20 years ago, this guy would have been serving us coffee. Now, whether he meant it complimentary or whether he actually meant it as an insult, now, I take it that he meant it as a complimentary, because Clinton was pretty much colorblind, as can be vouchsafed by his appointments.
Yeah.
But having said that, that's American. Jude, it is seriously right. So there could be, what does they say? There could be civil unrest if Trump wins, and there could be civil unrest if Trump loses.
A lot of cities are boarded up in the expectation of that. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you can see if Trump loses, there's no doubt, that the what is it, the Bold Boys or whatever they're called.
The Proud Boys.
Proud Boys will be all over the place saying they've been robbed, and he'll support them in saying it. If Trump loses, or rather the other way around, if Trump wins, I can't see all those people with Black Lives Matter and everything else going quietly home. I don't. I think that there'd be too many Americans would be in despair and rage. Another 4 years of this piece of crap. But maybe it's, you're saying your daughter-in-law is looking at it between her fingers, watching the election. I think that's it. You think, the old saying that the scalded cat fears the stove or avoids the stove because even it's cold, it's still going to avoid it because it's been burnt once. And it was such a shock to the system to get up in the morning, come down, and geez, Trump had won. And everybody told the night before. I think that nightmare is in everybody's head, and Trump speaks in such a certain way, so absolutely certain. I will take Iowa, and we'll take Pennsylvania, and we'll take Wisconsin. That people almost believe it. But I think maybe we're allowing that to influence us too much. I think if you also have to take into account this. We got such a gunk the last time because the pollsters were totally wrong. Now, if you're a pollster, you're going to make bloody sure you don't make the same mistake twice. You're going to take every precaution. You're going to look at, what did we do wrong the last time? Don't do it this time. So I would say the pollsters would be very, very careful in how they're coming up with figures. I can't see them screwing up as badly again,
But there's that sort of thing that I've always... I always use Paisley as a very sort of parochial version of all that. There are people I knew, very liberal Protestant people who were very decent. I'm not having a go at anybody here, who would be ashamed to admit it, that not only did they vote for Paisley, but a lot of their friends voted for Paisley and all the rest of it. By the way, a well-known Protestant cleric actually told me that he used to be amazed at Paisley's vote, because he said everybody he knew was not voting for Paisley.
Well, they used to say the same thing with Sinn Féin. We used to talk about the shy sinners, into the polling booth. But, another thing is this, though. We're supposed to be voting for people. I mean, we're not. The Americans, I'm doing the same thing here with America that I was giving out about for English football. But in America, neither of the two candidates has really put up a platform. I mean, Biden said this is about character. So what the people of America are electing really is, which of these guys do you think is the nicer or the better man? I can't see it. There's no real talk about the platform, what things they're going to do, how they're going to handle post the pandemic and so on. So it's down to character. And yet that's sort of wrong to vote that way.
It's sort of like a political beauty contest in a way. It's not about the ideology, and there's a guy on social media yesterday. I got involved in a bit of debate with him. In other words, an argument, and he says Joe Biden is a communist, and you're going, this is an American guy, and I thought, you go, good merciful Jesus, if Joe Biden is a communist, I am black and I'm living in Alabama, because it's ridiculous. Like, and if Joe Biden was living in London and was a politician, he would be somewhere on the right of the Conservative Party, because he's into big business. He supports the Israeli position. Anything that you can think that defines a right-wing Tory, Joe Biden is it.
But you see, that's they try to tag these names onto people. If you watch Spotlight special the other night, they had Jim Allister on, and he was talking about the socialist Biden. And there was a young guy in the audience, the virtual audience, you know, and he said, I thought he was very good actually, he said, Joe Biden is a socialist. He said, well, if Joe Biden is a socialist, that would make you a centrist, Jim Allister.
I saw that actually.
The whole thing. But I go back again to this question of character. I'm not sure, personality. Like if you think about I believe, the most influential and maybe the best Prime Minister that Britain has had in the last 50 years, 60 years, was Clem Attlee. Yeah. And I mean, he was a totally characterless person. I can hardly even imagine what he looked like. And yet he helped to usher, was under his premiership that they ushered in the National Health Service. Which was a monumental thing to have done. So maybe the guy doesn't matter too much. Now, having said all that, then I look at Trump. Look at Trump. I listen to the sound of his voice and the way he talks. I listen for a moment even to the things he's saying. And I realize that I think all of us have an inner Trump. A really nasty...
Oh, Jude, no, don't play that. No.
We all have that, and that's what I think that's what he's tapping into with his followers. But the point is, we all have this inside us, and it's our duty to struggle against these baser sort of things, you know?
Jude, I don't buy that. Okay, hey, there's none of us perfect. Of course they're not. But hey, this man is appealing not to the best in us, he's appealing to the worst in us.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
No, but hold on. But Jude, hey, I don't want to... I want a politician who says, let's look after the poor. Let's look after the hurt and the weary. Let's, try and make peace, not war. Trump's attitude, right, use a simple thing. I can't remember the name of the journalist, the guy who wrote for, I think, the Washington Post. He was cut to pieces in the Arab embassy.
I know the guy.
They actually nearly cut him up when he was alive. Trump just totally ignored that, and it's sort of, you sort of go, wait a minute, any normal human being, any normal politician say, wait a minute, we wanted a major investigation of this before. He just totally waited, because here was a good deal. They were selling, whatever it was, to the United Arab Emirates. They were selling something 60 billion American. So it didn't matter. And you go, wait a minute, that alone for me sort of told me everything I needed to know about Trump. It wasn't the only thing. But what I find amazing, Jude, and I've been doing this show so many times, here's a guy who, beyond question, it's not my opinion, it's on the record. He made the comment about grabbing women by their nether regions. He has paid off a porn star. His former solicitor said he was up to his eyeballs in crooked deals. And he basically, far from going away, the Mueller report could be reactivated the minute he loses office. The Americans know all this. There's about 5 or 6 former chiefs of the FBI, CIA, and the military who say he shouldn't be in office. They know all this, and 42% of the people of America are guaranteed to vote for him this time round. They don't care.
Yeah, well, at the same time, I would have been one of the first here to say you should watch very carefully the mainstream media. Because if you have something that you believe in, they'll twist it if it suits their purposes, So I can understand people being leery of the media. What I'm saying is that Trump has taken that and has really sort of blown it up like a balloon to the point where it becomes dangerous, where it's alternative facts and that kind of thing. All I'm saying is within every one of us, there's a devil. And Trump appeals to the devil in us. And within every one of us, there's something good, I think. Equally strong, maybe stronger, and in a sort of half-assed way, Joe Biden is appealing to that. It really is. It says something for the extent the way that American politics has slumped and hit the bottom. That we're saying Joe Biden, he's not much, but by God, I want him.
Yeah, like he is a bit colourless, and Japers, and God, Jude, got to admit, if you ask me what one thing he said, I couldn't repeat it for you. But, the president also reflects the sort of the colour and the character of the nation. And like a lot of Americans that I've talked to detest the fact that their nation is represented by a buffoon, a village idiot, a man who clearly, this is the guy who says he's a genius, but threatened legal action against anybody who would release his school results. The whole thing is just, he's a charlatan, and everybody knows he's a charlatan, and he's in charge of the richest and most powerful country in the world. How did it happen?
Yeah. In the end, I suppose what we're looking for from leaders, I think, is people that you know they'll not let you down when they appear on the TV screen. That they'll sound intelligent. They'll sound, they can, put a few thoughts together. They look good. That's important too. And I mean, Trump looks bloody ridiculous. There's nobody ever said, take off that makeup, mate. Take off that makeup. He's got the eyes.
He looks like a panda in reverse.
Panda with a hangover. Okay, Pat, 10 seconds. And I want you can think about it for 5 seconds and then you'll have to answer. Who is going to win?
Biden. Didn't have to think about it.
You want to ask me?
Not every opinion poll can't be wrong. Jude, who do you think is going to win?
Biden.
No.
I think Biden's going to win. And having said that, I wouldn't say it to my wife because she would say, "Don't say it, don't say it." What a heck!
Yeah, exactly. What's that one, Jude? When my wife, we were driving along, she said, "God, this car's going well. I can give you a guarantee 10 minutes later, we have a flat tire or something."
Well, my wife said at that stage, she cannot go into the room whenever anything about Trump is on. Even if it's a critical documentary, she cannot.
He has lost that key cohort, suburban women.
Well, I hope so.
He has. He knows it himself.
See women who are, apparently sane, and they're saying, oh, he's a great man. Incidentally, I had a guy who was pulling me up on Twitter and saying, he actually is nearer the Catholic position in life than Biden
Trump is. I believe that. Yeah,
well, I know what he meant.
I've had those people. I know what he meant too. But hey,
he was on the right side for abortion, and that's
absolute bollocks, Jude. Absolute rubbish. I can say I'm anti-abortion. I can say I'm anti-porn stars. But hey, I tell you live your life. And Trump didn't have a position on abortion before he ran for it. He's paid off porn stars. He's on the record and recorded as grabbing women and all the rest of it. And this is the guy the evangelical says is nearer the Catholic Church's position. Give us a break.
Okay, Pat. Hold your breath. Get your fingers in front of your face. People behind the sofa behind the sofa time. Okay, let's hope we will meet in the post-Trump era. Hopefully. God's help.
God bless you, my son.
Okay.